Well, welcome to Dealing with Change. Thank you for coming to this workshop. I appreciate you being here and looking forward to talking about how we deal with change. We're always constantly bombarded by change in our life, right? And you as a freshman possibly, or as an older student even at WSSU, you're still going to be dealing with a lot of change, but especially you freshmen, you're going to understand that this whole process is a massive change bubble, right? So what you've done, especially having come from a situation where you were probably in the pandemic, in the COVID-19 pandemic, you've been in a very different virtual world in high school. And now you got to adapt to being live in front of people. It's a very different feeling. And I'm sure you're already feeling some of that. Now, I don't know if some of you came for a specific reason. Did you have a specific change thing you're thinking about dealing with?
No,
Or are you just here to learn in general?
just need to learn.
Sounds like most of you are just here to learn. All right. Well, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to think about a specific change that you're going through. So just pick the one that just jumps right to your head. If I say, okay, what kind of change are you dealing with? Just let it sink in and be like, oh, yeah, this is what I'm dealing with. It might be as big as just dealing with the whole college experience. Or you might want to drill down and be real specific. Okay, I'm dealing with a boyfriend issue, or I'm dealing with a specific class issue, or I'm dealing with my relationship with my professor in this specific class. So those kinds of things. But again, it has to deal with a change that you're going through. Maybe you've never studied chemistry, and so chemistry, that's the change agent. Or maybe you've never been in such a social situation where you're trying to deal with clubs and memberships and people and staying up too late, and all of this is changing how your body functions. Maybe that's what you want to pick. But try to, again, I challenge you, pick something so that we can talk about it today. And you can actually apply what we learned today to your actual event or situation. So here we go, dealing with change. It all starts with me and what can I control? And this is the part that people, the very first thing I want to deal with, which is a lot of people say, well, it's out of my hands, right? It's out of my control. Yes, some of that change is out of your control. But what you need to do is take the things you can control and own it. So I want you to think about that topic, that idea. Go ahead and do that now. Think of the change that you want, that you're dealing with, that you want to deal with better. Pick something, anything, but it does have to be a change. And think about the fact that, have I fully understood that what I cannot change is in the past, it's already happened, but there are things that I can control, right? I want you to try to think about that. What can I control in that circumstance? Again, when we have a stimulus, in this case, a change situation, something changing in our lives, we have that moment of choice. And we can react to it, which is kind of saying that that's a negative thing. We don't really want to react to something, right? That's like emotionally, physically, just letting it hit you and just reacting directly off of that. Instead, we want to be more mature about it and have a response. That means letting it sink in, understanding what it means, and then stopping and saying, okay, how can I maturely respond to this situation? So we have that choice. All of us have that choice. When we're hit with that change, man, it can punch us right in the face, right? How do we respond and not react? This can be done at a very micro level too, right? Maybe some of us deal with anger, right? I deal with anger sometimes, right? I get a little bit too angry too quickly. This is what we're talking about. When something changes that you don't like and it's affecting you in a negative way, do you just lash out? Or do you sit back and say, okay, that hurt. Let me understand that hurt me. Let me take a deep breath, and now let me respond to what the issue is, not just the emotions of it. So that's what we're dealing with here. The second thing is, in terms of starting with me, what am I in control of? We have to treat life as opportunities for growth. And that's what the O flag here is. It's an opportunity for learning and growth. OFLAG. And so that's my acronym to just say, what can I get out of this from a learning perspective? Because what is life if not a continuous learning opportunity, right? You're here in college, you are here to learn. But it's not just about academics. It's about how can I live my life better? How can I approach difficult things in a better way? And not just the way I've dealt with them as a teenager, as a high school student, etc., right? You want to be better, and we want to help you get there. So today's workshop is about making your personal life and your school life better. How do we do that? Treating everything like an opportunity for learning. Again, not just academics, not just textbooks, not just writing essays, but what about the things that hit you over the course of a day, a week, a month, a semester, that are unexpected, that you didn't want, you didn't like, but it happened to you? How do you deal with that? Treat everything as an opportunity for learning and growth. That means you can't play the blame game, okay? You can't say, well, I blame it on COVID, or I blame it on my professor, or I blame it on my school, or I blame it on this department or this office I had to go to today at WSSU. You can't control everything. You can only control what you do and what your attitude is. Those two things are very important. What you actually do and your attitude towards doing it. Your heart approach to doing it. That's true for a boyfriend or girlfriend situation. That's true for interacting with an office on campus. That's true for talking to a professor, right? All these different instances of change that is hurting you, that is affecting you in a negative way. How can you deal with it better? These are some of those clues on how to do it. So this whole idea of being in control is a way of reframing your thinking, right? Reframe, right? So you have a frame of thinking, right? A lens in which you see the world. You're wearing a certain pair of glasses on how you do things. And you've done that successfully in your life. So, I'm not trying to throw shade on that. I'm just saying, now is a chance to put on a new pair of glasses. Put on a new frame on how you look at things. And what is that new frame? It is thinking about things in a different way. You have concerns. A change happens to you. You're concerned about how it's going to affect you this way, that way, the other way. But then a smaller bubble within that is your circle of control. What you can control is, of course, a smaller subset of things that you're concerned about. But you've got to learn to just let go of those other concerns because you do not control them. They are out of your control. How your professor acts, how your boyfriend is going to react or respond to you when you say or do something. How that office that you're interacting with is going to respond to your request when you ask for something is not up to you to decide or control. All you can control is your attitude, right? Your personality when you do that, perform that request, and what you actually do. If you do ask for something, or if you do, say something, or enact something, or do something about it. So that's what you're in control of, and that's what you've got to focus on. So here's our first exercise, and you can see your papers there. I want you to go ahead and grab your pencil or pen, and pick a change issue if you have not yet already. I don't care if it's small or big, but just pick something, just so you can work on something. And then ask yourself, so far, have you been reacting, which is kind of that negative way of just immediately reacting? Or are you responding? Are you thinking about it, contemplating what should be done, what is the right approach, letting your emotions calm down before you reply or respond? Secondarily, are you seeing those opportunities for learning and growth? So take just a few minutes to write down some notes about your change issue, and then we'll come right back and talk about it. All right, now that we're coming back together, let's talk a little bit about what change issues you picked, and then talk me through how you feel right now in terms of your reacting, responding, your O flags. So Jadera, why don't you start us off?
I said living with someone that doesn't live the same way I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be doing things a certain way that your roommate maybe have another way of doing it, and I'm saying from my perspective, but we do things totally different. So it's like, okay, I don't like the way she does that, but I can't do anything about what she does or how she learned to do that one thing. So it's nothing I can do. So sometimes I do sit back and be like, okay, I can't do anything about what she's doing, so I just have to like deal with it or just forget about it.
Yeah, that's a great example. Have you ever had to live with a roommate before?
No. Well, my brother, but like that's family, but I'm not like a complete stranger, but someone that you don't know for real, it's different.
Yes, it is. Yes, because you haven't built that trust. You haven't built that relationship up.
Yeah.
Whereas your brother, you've been with him your whole lives, so you kind of know each other pretty well, and over time you've developed that relationship. Here, you're like, okay, I never met you. I shake your hand, and here we go.
Right.
We're living in the same space.
Yeah.
This is crazy, right? Yeah, so that's where change is thrust upon you. How do you feel like you're reacting or responding so far?
I'm gonna be honest. I have my days where I wanna like talk to her or fuss at her a little bit, but then again, I'm like, there's no point of wasting my breath on something I can't control she's doing. So I just kind of either talk to someone else about it, like my mom or one of my friends, and leave it at that, or just leave it alone.
Yes. And this is where the whole idea, okay, let me ask you another question first before I jump in. So the O flags, have you found any opportunities for learning or for growth so far in that experience?
What do you mean, like opportunity?
Anything that you've learned about yourself or learned how to do that you weren't so comfortable doing before?
I've learned myself how to like forget, like not let it bother me as much. Not someone caring about something. Like I've learned how to maintain that.
Right.
Not worrying about something that I can't control, like you said. So that's the thing I've learned for myself.
Do you feel like you're forgiving and forgetting, or just forgetting?
Right now, I think I'm just forgetting.
Gotta start
I
somewhere.
say that you can forgive, but you never forget, and that's what anything like. Somebody can do something. Somebody hit your car. You can forgive them, but you'll never forget when they hit your car because now your car is damaged. So I feel like you can't like over time you may forget about it, but most things you don't forget. You just forget about it and don't care about it. So I don't feel like you can really. I don't say you can't forget it, but you can forget it, but you can't forget it. Type of thing.
Sounds like you're learning how to let go of some things.
Yeah.
Which is good. And you can tell that helps you, right? You can help, you can realize that you're growing as a person because you are being challenged.
Yeah.
We don't get challenged if everything stays the same, right? If everything stays the same in our life, nothing changes. But when you have that challenge, you got to look at it as an opportunity, right? And so that's what you're getting, which is great. I'm really glad to hear that. So the other thing I want to say about reacting or responding. So you're in a situation now where you have a choice. You can either address it with your roommate or you can not address it with your roommate.
Right.
And then, of course, how you do it. You've got to be respectful. You've got to have the right attitude. Remember, we talked about the heart approach. So if you have the right attitude, the right approach, the right heart, like caring about the person and wanting to work out, then you can come with it with the right words and the right manner. And so if you do that, then you've got a choice. Do you ever talk to this person about changing how they do something? And that's up to you. That's totally a personal decision. But that's a challenge now for you is, how do I respond? Do I just sort of forgive and or forget what this person is doing as my new roommate that I've never dealt with before? Or is there an opportunity here to sit down and talk about some things? Hey, I just want to check in and see how we're doing. Do you have anything for me that you feel like is getting on your nerves or anything we can work on together? And then maybe at that point being able to confront that person again with the right heart attitude, healthy respect and care to address some of the things that you're hoping that would change. Now, again, in that same circumstance, you can't expect her to change what she's going to do. But you can at least say, oh, I gave it a shot. I went ahead and put it out there. I took a risk and all that. Now, if you're at that stage, that's great. If you're not, that's okay too. But again, these are all opportunities. These are all O flags, right? You're all experiencing different things. But for you specifically, you've got that chance to say, okay, is this something I want to jump out and take the courage to address with this person? And that's totally up to you, and I want you to kind of think about that. It's just an opportunity. All right. Let's talk about the change curve, and this comes from Kubler-Ross. This is actually the curve that we all go through. The good thing about dealing with change, and we all deal with change, is that there is a predictable curve. There is a predictable cycle that we all go through. So when you're starting to feel a certain way, feeling the type of way, you can rest assured that everybody else goes through some of the same things. If you are in shock, if you are in denial, if you are frustrated, do not fear. This is very normal. These are the first phases of when we start dealing with a new change. Over time, we're going to find that it might, not always, but it might lead to some frustration and even depression, like mild depression. We're talking about the mild kind, not the severe, need to see a psychiatrist or doctor type thing. And that's going to lead to low mood, lacking in energy. But what is on the other side of it is this upward scale, which leads to experimentation, engaging with your situation, and then hopefully a decision where you learn how to now work with your new reality. And finally, integration. You're just now integrating it into who you are and what you do. And it's no longer a thing that you got to deal with. So this is very helpful, I think, mostly because it reminds us we're all human, we're all in this together, and we all deal with these aspects of change. And again, the other axis here is talking about your morale and your confidence. Does it go up or down? So that's what that scale is. Now I've taken this scale and I've simplified it so that we can kind of make it easier to understand. Just 4 different steps. So I want you to go ahead and take a look at this now and be able to kind of walk through it with me. The first one is that denial stage. This is where you're in the shock, the frustration, the confusion. The aim at this point is just adjusting. It's understanding your discomfort and recognizing it. Okay, admitting to yourself. The second piece is resisting. This is where you start to realize that you are attached to something that happened to you before. You have to identify what that is. What is it that makes this change so personal to you? Why do you feel upset about it or unhappy about it? Or why do you feel like it's an attack on you? Why does it hurt? In this stage, your aim should be letting go of the old way. The third thing you can experience is this explore phase. This is when you start to accept the new reality. You're finding solutions. Your aim and your goal, if you find yourself in this stage, is brainstorming how to do the new way better and more seamlessly. Finally, you've got this acceptance. And that is when you're able to problem solve. You are now adapting to a new normal. And you can own it and look back to say, what did I learn? Because again, never feel like a situation hurt you so bad that it's just got to be flushed down the toilet. There's always something to be learned, even from really bad situations. Anybody can attest to that? Anybody been through a tough situation where you're like, I really didn't like going through that, but now that I got out of it, I'm a better person for it, right?
Yeah.
So we all understand that. And that's what we're talking about. If you've been through anything like that, you know that change can be a good thing. So, where are you? Go back to your change issue. Where are you in your change process? Go ahead and identify now. Let's talk about it live. I guess we'll start with you. Jadera, where are you in your process for that specific thing we talked about with the roommate?
I think I am in resistance. So,
You're resistant, stage number 2? Okay,
but
talk to me more about it. Do you identify with what's written here? How do you react to what you see here on the screen?
I wouldn't say I'm hurt about it. I don't know, cause going back to the curve, I kind of jump between frustration and experiment, skipping depression. I'll never be depressed, but I'll try to engage with the situation, and it doesn't like affect anything in any type of way until I get back frustrated, and then maybe I might forget about it, and then go back to trying to do something else and experiment, and then it doesn't go the same way, go back to frustration. So I kind of jump between those two. So that's why I say I'm at resistance. I don't really become in denial.
Right.
Deny. Or explore. So.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, so you're in that kind of tough spot of resistance, sort of at the low curve of it,
Yeah.
right? Because you haven't found a breakthrough yet. You haven't come up with a solution that really works, right?
Yeah.
That you're happy with and the other person's happy with.
Yeah.
And that's why I've talked a little bit earlier with our conversation about maybe that next step is that difficult conversation. And I actually have a workshop that has already been done, on the Success Workshops, wssu.edu/success workshops.
Mhm.
If you don't go down and click previously recorded workshops, you can just jump in, put in your password for WSSU, and you can actually see a video on dealing with change. Not dealing with change. Is basically having difficult conversations. And that's exactly what we're talking about. You're at that stage. So I would love it if you check that out on your own time. It's about 45 minutes, just like this workshop is. That's going to help you tremendously.
Okay.
All right. So that's really interesting, being in that resistant phase. And now let's talk about moving forward. How do we overcome some of these change challenges? I'm going to talk about something called skill, will, and hill. Then I'll give you a little worksheet that you can write down. So skill, will, and hill is a basic concept that talks about when you're dealing with change, how do you overcome it? The first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you have the right skills to overcome it? Is this about having the existing ability to do it? Or is it about, gosh, I need to learn a new ability. I must retrain myself. Or I have to actually learn a new thing. And this is, again, it's different for every person. It's different for every circumstance. But maybe for you, your next opportunity for training is learning how to have that difficult conversation. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not. I would say it probably is. But of course, we all make our own choices, and you get to make that choice of, hey, do I watch this video? Hey, do I try to implement some of those things I learned? But this is an opportunity, right, for you to take that skill and say, I don't have the existing ability. For whatever reason, I didn't have that level of confrontation in my life. Everybody's different. And now I must learn a new ability. Okay? So that's the skill piece. The next piece is the will. Maybe, for my change, I need to adapt a different attitude, behavior, or even drive or motivation. Maybe I'm depressed, right? This is not you, but maybe it's somebody else here in the room. Maybe you are depressed about something and you don't feel good about it, and you have no drive, you have no motivation. This is a will issue. This is about, do I have the right attitude, behavior, personal motivation? And if you don't, now's the time to adjust your mindset. Okay, right down here. Adjust my mindset. It's time to brainstorm. Literally get a sheet of paper, a pencil or a pen, and start writing down, what do I need to change about my mindset, how I'm thinking about, how I'm framing the problem, what glasses I'm looking through to see the problem. I've got to put on different glasses. What are they? And almost doing like a self-evaluation to figure out how you can do better. The third thing is the hill. Figuring out what barriers you need to overcome, what challenges are there that you need to, again, brainstorm about, list, write down, and then game plan to figure out how you can overcome them. So this is your basic skill, will, and hill. I'll just give you a very brief 2 minutes. Just go ahead and take your sheet of paper and go ahead and address your change issue. What do you see as a possible skill, will, and hill as it relates to your change issue? now that we've all had a chance to write down a few things, again, very briefly, let's talk about some of the things you put down. Is there anything you want to share about your skill, Hill or Will, that you learned from taking a few moments?
I said for my skill, I think I need to find a new skill. Is between the one I already have and the one I need one. And I feel like the one I've been trying isn't working. So I need to find another way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
For my will, I think I can change my attitude of how I'm looking at the situation. And not just think about myself, because it's more than me just in the room. And then my hill, I said, just have a mature conversation. And not so much on my end, but accepting their maturity level compared to my maturity level.
Right, and those might not be the same.
Yes.
You know? And that's why you go in with the right hopes, but you never expect or demand. Because you didn't live their life, you don't know how they've lived their life up to this point, and you're never going to control them, right? It's a whole situation with marriage, boyfriends, girlfriends. You can never control the other person. You can only have conversations and hopeful expectations, but you can't run their life, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same thing with a roommate situation, which is totally a good analogy, because a relationship like that and a relationship with a roommate can be similar, because you're dealing with stuff because you're there. You have to deal with it because it's there.
Right.
There's no getting away from it. Awesome, great, thank you for sharing. So now I want to just kind of give you some fun quotes, just to kind of, we'll do this and then we'll get into our real meat, which is the tips, and then we'll end for today. So this is just fun stuff to think about. Well, Betty Green, she's actually an amazing person who is an aviator from many decades ago. Her quote is, "Bending beats breaking." Right? Isn't it better to bend rather than break? So that's how you can deal with change. Robin Sharma, who's an author, he writes that change is hardest at the beginning, messiest in the middle, and maybe that's where you find yourself with your roommate, and best at the end. Brene Brown is a very famous author, kind of motivational speaker. She says vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. We have to be vulnerable. And this is speaking to your whole, should I have a conversation or not? Mm-hmm. When you're vulnerable, that's when things have the opportunity to break through. That's when things can change, that things can get better or different. John F. Kennedy, one of our former presidents, says change is the law of life. Those who look only to the past or even the present are certain to miss the future. Finally, C.S. Lewis, the famous writer of the Narnia series of books for children or young adults, says you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. So these are just great ideas to keep in mind as you deal with your change issue. All right, let's get into the final meat and bones and the meat and potatoes, and then we'll finish for today. Tips and strategies. What do I need to do? Here we go. Embrace it. Right? Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. The only constant is change, is another great quote. Change is not going away. How do you deal with change when you're having a difficult time? Well, have a positive attitude, or sort of count your blessings, as it were. Just know that things could be harder, things could be more difficult. Be thankful for the good things that are in your life. Another tip is have multiple identities. Meaning, if one aspect, say the roommate thing, is not working out well, find other things that give you identity elsewhere. It could be a hobby that you do, other things you love. It could be another identity as an XYZ, right? So, for example, me, I love board games. So one of my identities is a board game player. And so I can truly find solace, find happiness, find joy as that identity, regardless of other identities where I may struggle or I may have some change that's happening that's unfortunate or uncomfortable. Be in control. We talked about this earlier. Reframe your situation as, I'm going to control what I can. Focus on the future, not the past. So don't dwell upon the past. This is where that depression comes into play. Don't dwell on the past, but look to what can be in the future. Because that's the only place you can go. It's also the only place that you can change or affect. So finally, I would say is see the big picture. Know that this is only a moment in time and this is an opportunity to grow for the future. How is that going to happen? Well, if you're learning now about your situation, you can now learn how to, for example, push through discomfort. You may be learning how to have a difficult conversation. You may be learning how to be more adaptable, which I think you're already doing, right, in yours. You can learn how to be more resilient. Resilient means to bounce back. So when tough stuff happens to you, can you bounce back? That develops resilience. Without change, you will never develop resilience. So think of things, frame things as understanding this is temporary, this is a moment in time challenge, and this is going to make me grow and be a better person for the future. All right, so which of these tips or strategies might work for you best? Take one quick minute, 60 seconds, take a look at that list that I've got up there on the board, and tell me one or two things that you say, yeah, I need to do that more. Or I need to have that change of attitude. Go ahead and do that now, please. All right, now that we've had a little bit of time to do that, tell me what you think might be the one or two things that you say, yeah, that's a great one, I need to do that.
I said positive attitude, count your blessings, and focus on future, not past.
Okay, excellent, great, good stuff. So again, it could be different for every one of you. We're going to continue on, and we've just done our final exercise. I just want to say to end that this is what it's all about. It's embracing the unknown. This is your challenge. If you just focus on the past, you're going to be shackled, okay? You don't want to be shackled. You want to look to the future. You want to embrace what's unknown and go for it. And that's the only way you can have the right approach or attitude towards change. So with that, I want to thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate you very much. Wish you all the best. At this point, we have a brief 3-minute survey. If you've got a phone, please zap it with the QR code reader, and then just complete that. It's really, really short, 3 minutes. And if you can get it done now, I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, I am here for the next few minutes. If you have other questions or concerns, please ask now, and I'll be happy to address them.